Hello, everyone. I'm Reverend Roy Atwood, and this is Judson Memorial Church. Thank you so much for joining us at this service. Now, if you'd like to follow along, there's a bulletin. You can go to judson.org/worship and find the link to the bulletin. And on that page, judson.org/worship, if you're watching this live on Sunday morning, there's a link to our Zoom watch party. And you'll want to join that. We're doing a portion of the service pre-recorded here, but a portion of it will also be live after the pre-recorded segment ends. So you will definitely want to get on the Zoom watch party again if you're watching this on Sunday morning. Now, we start every service here at Judson with a land acknowledgement, so if you'll please join me in that. We acknowledge that this service is taking place in a building that was constructed using the profits from a corrupt oil company, in a city that grew wealthy by doing business with slave owners, on land that was stolen from the Lenape people by force. We acknowledge that we have not atoned for these sins, and for that we ask for forgiveness. Amen. Now, the theme of this service is anger, and the dangerousness of anger, as well as the beauty that we can also experience when we're feeling anger. And to get us into the mood of anger, I needed to start us off right with something very rageful, something rock, something that makes you want to bang your head. And that song today is We're Not Gonna Take It by Twisted Sister. So let's get in the mood for some anger.
Oh, we're not gonna take it. Come on! Oh no, we ain't gonna take it. Oh, we're not gonna take it anymore. We've got the right to choose it. There ain't no way we'll lose it. This is our life. This is our song. We'll fight the Constitution. Don't think I'll get the big card. You don't know us, you don't belong. Whoa, sing it. Whoa, we're right there. We're free. We'll fight. You'll see. Whoa, we're not gonna take it. Oh no, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. We're not gonna take it. Come on, no, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. No way. All right. Whoa, say it. We're right. We're free. We'll fight. You'll see. Sing it with me now. Reach. We're not gonna take it. Come on. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. All right. We're not gonna take it. Come on. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore.
Okay, so I hope you are all properly angry now. The inspiration for this service comes from our ancient testimony and a moment in which we see Jesus exhibiting anger in a way that we don't see very often in the gospel text. Reverend Dr. Donna Scopper is going to read that text for us. It's John 2:13 through 17. Take it away, Donna.
The Ancient Testimony. Reading from the Common English Bible, John 2:13 through 17. It was nearly time for the Jewish Passover, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. He found in the temple those who were selling cattle and sheep and doves, as well as those involved in exchanging currency, all sitting there. And so he made a whip from ropes and chased them all out of the temple, including the cattle and the sheep. He scattered the coins and overturned the tables of those who exchanged currency, and he said to the doves' sellers, "Get these things out of here. Don't make my Father's house a place of business." His disciples remembered that it is written, "Passion for your house consumes me." Here ends the reading.
As we move deeper into this time of reflecting on the intricacies and nuances of anger, I'd like you to think about your own relationship with the emotion. How often do you get angry? Is it something you're constantly trying to quell, or simply a rare fit of fury? What were you taught about anger growing up? Was it a healthy emotion to share with the world? Was it an embarrassment to be kept under lock and key? Was it a toxic part of everyday life that simply had to be endured? As I've been preparing for this service, I've been thinking about my own anger. I'm not a particularly emotional person. If I'm excited about something, the most you'll usually elicit is a dry, "I'm really excited for that," as if I were a robot poorly trained in the art of human emotion. So in that vein, an outburst of anger isn't something I experience all too often. At first, the most recent example of my anger that I could think of was back in college, about 9 or 10 years ago, when a friend was visiting my house over a holiday break. And my younger brother had been wearing my clothes, and I was getting pretty tired of finding random pieces of my wardrobe needing to be washed. So when he came into the room, I let him have it. I started a tirade about how annoying it was and how selfish he was being, and he left the room chastened with his tail between his legs. And as soon as he did, I flashed a cheeky grin to my friend to let him know that what he had just witnessed was much more akin to a piece of performance art than an honest outburst. Sure, my brother was annoying me, but the ire he'd received was more a tool for getting what I wanted than anything else. And much to my chagrin, instead of being impressed by my Oscar-worthy endeavor, my friend was aghast that I would be so rude to my poor brother, and he insisted that I apologize immediately. I have no memory of apologizing. Yet, as I went about my life these past few weeks, I started to think of more recent instances when I'd been angry. There was the time I went to post bond for an immigrant in detention, and ICE wouldn't accept my temporary driver's license because it didn't have a photo on it. And I simply started yelling, "This is a valid form of identification," over and over again, until security came into the room and told me to calm down. In a similar vein, there was a time back before I was a signer on the church bank account when I went to make a deposit and the teller asked for my ID. This was a new teller, a tall, well-dressed black man who seemed to have more authority than the usual tellers based on how we interacted with them. And I was taken aback because they'd never asked for my ID before, and I was afraid he wouldn't let me make the deposit. So I started to get angry about why he was asking the question. Now, it was sorted out fairly quickly that he needed ID simply if I wanted the account balance printed on the deposit receipt. And it was just a question the other tellers weren't in the habit of asking. And this story, it's fairly innocuous, right? But it gets to a larger point about one of the true dangers of anger. That anger is a tool by which those of us with privilege attempt to enforce that privilege in the world. I'll say that again. Anger is a tool by which those of us with privilege attempt to enforce that privilege in the world. When we believe that we have a right to something, a right to be somewhere or do something or say whatever we want, and that right is questioned, we don't get curious or inquisitive or intrigued. No, we get angry. We don't ask to learn more about the other person's perspective or treat it as an opportunity to learn something new. When someone questions our privilege, we get mad. For some reason, I, as a white man, believed I had a God-given right to make that deposit without showing ID. And when a black man questioned that right, I got angry. And would I have acted the same way if the teller were white? We don't know, because that's not what happened. In this next video from 1968, two psychiatrists, William F. Greer and Price M. Cobbs, talk about their book, Black Rage, and the concept of white hostility. Take a look.
Gentlemen, in the foreword to your book, United States Senator Fred Harris said that although slavery has not been practiced in this country for over 100 years, the mind of the citizen has not been freed. Do you feel that this is the root cause of the Negro problem?
We feel it is a very important cause. The attitude of the society generally, of white people, and unfortunately of some black people, is that black people are inferior and should, in fact, occupy an inferior status in this society.
The primary problem at this point is black-white, but I think it's really much deeper than that. It goes to the heart of the white man's psyche, where he thinks and feels that he indeed is superior to other people, and this has to stop.
What effect do you think militants like the Black Panthers, for instance, have on the cause of the Negro?
All black people are angry, not just a few militants whom one may see on television. Black people in this country have had it. They're angry, they want in, and they want everything that any other citizen has. And I think white America has to realize this in a very fundamental, basic fashion.
Do you feel that maybe this statement is adding to what might be termed the white rage?
I doubt it. We have every reason to believe, and I think most observers of the contemporary scene can understand that the racism that white people feel is a very hostile thing. I believe it was Martin Luther King who said that it was not his activities that were producing the hostility on the part of whites. It was simply uncovering that hostility which was already there, and I'm afraid the same thing is happening here, that the militants don't produce white hostility. They simply expose that which is already there.
Right, I think it's the same problem. What we have are racists who have heretofore been silent, who now feel more free to jump up and say something.
You haven't offered any formula, any solutions, actually, to the problem of the Negro in your book, The Black Rage. What were your objectives in writing it?
I think quite the contrary. We approach the book as clinicians, and we have the feeling that this country, one of the commodities that is lacking is information.
Yeah, we felt that the decision makers, who are the ones who determine what kind of response will be made to the racial crisis, unfortunately operate sometimes from not a very sophisticated point of view. If, for example, they feel that riots occur because there are too many youngsters on the block in August, and that the temperature, when it rises above 80, is the precipitating cause, then of course their responses are in terms of that kind of understanding. What we've tried to do in the book has been to try to give them a deeper understanding of why there is a racial crisis in this country, that it is not a superficial issue, and that it is some 300 years in length, and that it will require profound and deep-seated changes in our social system.
At this point, the country has reached a very desperate crisis where most black people are saying, either give it to us or blow up the system. And I don't think America at this point has the luxury to sit around and decide. I think with all deliberate speed, which means right now, these grievances must be redressed. Black people must be brought in as black Americans into the American family with all the rights and privileges and all the psychological rights and privileges that accrue to them.
What this video makes clear is that the dangerous anger of white hostility exists in a symbiotic relationship with the infinitely more dangerous anger of black rage. And I say that black rage is more dangerous because while white hostility can be embarrassing and harmful, black rage can get you killed. A few years ago, I was at the airport in Savannah, Georgia, attempting to cross the street to get to the terminal. And the road that ringed the terminal was quite busy. And there was a black female police officer stationed in the middle of the crosswalk directing traffic. Now, throughout Georgia, there are signs posted at many crosswalks that say something like, "State law must stop for pedestrians." So I decided to ignore the police officer and start crossing the street, daring the cars to stop for me, even though a cop was directing them forward. She turned, looked me right in the eyes, said, "Back up," and kept waving the traffic forward. At that point, I started to argue with her about how it was state law that cars had to stop for pedestrians, which was not a legal debate she was particularly interested in having at the time. Of course, you should notice my own internalized white supremacy that provide a common theme between this story and the last one. Finally, the officer decided that it was time to stop traffic and let us cross the street, at which point my friend looked at me and said, "You're lucky you're white." Because I was white and privileged, I felt that my anger was justified, and I had no fear at what the consequences of that anger would be. Yet for those of us who are women or people of color or queer or working class or some combination of the four, anger has to be carefully calibrated because ill-timed rage can cause you to lose your livelihood or to lose your life. And we see the relationship between the anger of the privileged and the anger of the oppressed in our next song, in which a trans woman is raging against the harm done to her, and the cisgendered audience meets her with hostility.
Operation got botched. My guardian angel fell asleep on the watch. Now all I've got is a Bobby doll crotch. I've got an angry inch. 6 inches forward,
up from the operation. I was bleeding down there. I was bleeding from a gash between my legs. It's my first day as a woman. Already it's that time of the month. But 2 days later the hole closed up. The wound healed and I was left with a 1-inch mound of flesh. Where my penis used to be, well, my vagina never was. It was a 1-inch mound of flesh with a scar running down it like a sideways grimace on an eyeless face. It was just a little bar. It wasn't angry in 6 inches long, 5 inches back. The train is coming and I'm tied to the track. I'm trying to get up, I can't get no slack. I got on angry in 6 inches long, 5 inches back. Stay undercover till the night turns to black. I got my inch, I'm set to attack. I got on angry inch, 6 inches long, 5 inches back. Stay undercover till the night turns to black. I got my inch, I'm set to attack. I got on angry inch, 6 inches long and 5 inches back. The train is coming and I'm tied to the track.
Now, when we grapple with the dangers of anger as we've outlined them, the danger of privileged anger and the danger of oppressed anger, we often add on an even more pernicious problem by forcing ourselves to internalize so much of our rage. If we don't have a healthy outlet for our anger, if we fear anger will cost us everything, then we learn that anger must be bottled up, that it must be kept inside, never to see the light of day. Preparing for this service, I came across multiple instances of people discussing how they didn't realize how angry they actually were. And their anger had been so suppressed that it became something they weren't aware of. And what other emotion is like that? That we're so afraid of it, that we keep it so deep inside that we can't even name it, that we don't know it's there. Now, here's an example of this phenomenon in a selection from an article entitled, "I Used to Insist I Didn't Get Angry, Not Anymore," by Leslie Jameson, read by Reverend Micah Busey.
A few years ago, I started to get a knot in my gut at the canned cadences of my own refrain. I don't get angry, I get sad. At the shrillest moments of our own self-declarations, we often hear in that tinny register another truth, lurking expectantly, and begin to realize there are things about ourselves we don't yet know. By which I mean that at a certain point, I started to suspect I was angrier than I thought. Of course, it wasn't anger when I was 4 years old and took a pair of scissors to my parents' couch, wanting so badly to destroy something, whatever I could. Of course, it wasn't anger when I was 16 and my boyfriend broke up with me and I cut up the inside of my own ankle, wanting so badly to destroy something, whatever I could. Of course, it wasn't anger when I was 34 and fighting with my husband, when I screamed into a pillow after he left the house so our daughter wouldn't hear, then threw my cell phone across the room and spent the next 10 minutes searching for it under the bed, and finally found it in a small pile of cat vomit. Of course, it wasn't anger when, during a faculty meeting early in my teaching days, I distributed statistics about how many female students in our department had reported instances of sexual harassment the year before. More than half of them. A faculty member grew indignant and insisted that most of those claims probably didn't have any basis at all. I clenched my fists. I struggled to speak. It wasn't that I could say for sure what had happened in each of those cases. Of course I couldn't. They were just anonymous numbers on the page. But their sheer volume seemed horrifying. It demanded attention. I honestly hadn't expected that anyone would resist these numbers or force me to account for why it was important to look at them. The scrutiny of the room made me struggle for words just when I needed them most. It made me dig my nails into my palm. What was that emotion? It was not sadness. It was rage.
Now, if anger is something that's so dangerous, why do we experience it so often? Why are we so angry? Well, frankly, I think it's because there are a lot of legitimate things to be angry about. We've got a society where the color of your skin affects the income you receive, and the housing you can buy, and the health care you're provided, and the legal rights you're afforded, and the odds that the government shoots you. We've suffered through a pandemic where 1 in every 1,700 Canadians died, and 1 in every 800 Europeans died. Yet in the country we like to pretend is the greatest in the world, 1 in every 650 Americans died. We've trashed our planet so thoroughly that at current rates, we're going to reach the deadly threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming in just under 7 years. It's like there's a train headed straight for us, and we're completely failing at slowing it down. And that's the subject of our next song, Screeching Wheels by Shaffer James. And the performer in this video is a local artist, Brandon Kazan-Maddox, whom Hinku has collaborated with. His work combines American Sign Language and dance. It's really cool, so you'll want to check out his work. And this song will also be our offertory for today. So if you'd like to contribute to the church, you can Venmo us at Judson-Memorial Church, or you can donate online at judson.org/give.
That train is coming back, oh, them screeching wheels. There have our children picking thistle from the killing fields. The sky is blurry black, and up on Jackson Hill, a soldier wipes his bloody nose with $100 bills. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, 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 that train is coming back. Oh, that train is coming back. Oh, oh, whoa, oh, 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 that train is coming back. Oh, that train is coming back. That train is chewing track. It's coming at full tilt. They'll have us buried in the basement of the house we build. We gotta push them back. We're gonna take their tongues. We'll hear them squeal under the heels of our forgotten sons. Oh, 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 that train is coming back. Oh, that train is coming back. Oh, 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 that train is coming back. Oh, that train is coming back. That train is coming back. Oh, them screeching wheels. They'll have our children picking thistle from the killing fields. The sky is blurry black, and up on Jackson Hill, the soldier wipes his bloody nose with $100 bills. Oh, that train is coming back. 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 Oh, train is coming back. Oh, them screeching wheels, they'll have our children picking thistle from the killing fields.
Now, despite all of the dangers of anger that I've spent however long enumerating, my point here today is actually different. It's that in some perverse way, anger is actually a beautiful thing. Because we don't want to live in a world with so much injustice. And we should be angry about it. But without anger, we might not do anything. The opposite of anger, I think, as I've been reflecting, is complacency. The opposite of anger is complacency. We need the emotional power of our rage to compel us to change our reality. Anger is a teacher, in a way. It shows us what is wrong, and it provides us with the inspiration to do something about it. And anger teaches us not just about the realities of the external society, but also about what's going on inside each of us. So often our own anger surprises us. It's a reflexive reaction to a sore spot or a place of hurt that we didn't know was there. And if we're able to treat our anger without judgment, to hold our anger at an arm's length and look at it and ask, why are you here? We can learn a lot about ourselves. And that can be a beautiful thing. In our next reading, Audre Lorde teaches us about some of the usefulnesses of anger. This is from her 1981 speech called The Uses of Anger, Women Responding to Racism, read by Reverend Dr. Valerie Holly.
Every woman has a well-stocked arsenal of anger, potentially useful against those oppressions, personal and institutional, which brought that anger into being. Focused with precision, it can become a powerful source of energy serving progress and change. And when I speak of change, I do not mean a simple switch of positions or a temporary lessening of tensions, nor the ability to smile or feel good. I am speaking of a basic and radical alteration in those assumptions underlining our lives. Anger expressed and translated into action in the service of our vision and our future is a liberating and strengthening act of clarification. For it is in the painful process of this translation that we identify who are our allies with whom we have grave differences and who are our genuine enemies. Anger is loaded with information and energy.
As Lorde says, we need our beautiful anger to overturn the oppressions that make us angry in the first place. Anger is an emotion that if we don't let it consume us, has the capacity to inspire us in a way that no other emotion can. As an institution devoted to the cultivation of arts and justice, in a way, Judson is an institution devoted to the cultivation of productive anger in all of its danger and all of its beauty. Our closing song today is an example of the type of beautiful art that can really only be produced out of a place of anger. This is Black Rage by Lauryn Hill.
Black rage is founded on 2/3 a person, rapings and beatings and suffering that worsens. Black human packages tied up in strings. Black rage can come from all these kinds of things. Black rage is founded on blatant denial, squeezed economics, subsistence survival, deafening silence and social control. Black rage is founded on wounds in the soul. When the dogs bite, when the beatings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember all these kinds of things, and then I don't fear so bad. Black rage is founded, who fed us self-hatred, lies and abuse, while we waited and waited. Spiritual treason, this grid and its cages. Black rage is founded on these kinds of things. Black rage is founded on training and training, threatening your freedom to stop you complaining, poisoning your water while they say it's raining. You're mad for complaining, complaining. Old-time bureaucracy drugging the youth. Black rage is founded on blocking the truth. Murder and crime, compromise and distortion. Sacrifice, sacrifice, who makes this fortune? Greed falsely called progress, such human contortion. Black rage is founded on these kinds of things. When the dogs bite, when the beatings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember all these kinds of things, and then I don't feel so bad. Free and surprise, is it myth or illusion? Forcing you back into purpose confusion, like human trafficking or blood transfusion. Black rage is founded on these kinds of things. Victims of violence, both psyche and body. Life out of context is living ungodly. Politics, politics, greed falsely called wealth. Black rage is founded on denial of self. The dogs bite, knowing the beatings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember all these kinds of things, and then I don't feel so bad. So bad.
So now that we've taken this journey through anger, we can look at the biblical story that inspired it through enlightened eyes. In the story, Jesus goes to the temple, which the Jewish people believe is the location where God is present on earth, the place where every day Israelites go to restore their relationship with God. And he finds it turned into a marketplace where they're selling the materials that people need to make their sacrifices. Since it's such a hassle to take your cattle or your sheep or your doves halfway across the country, the merchants in the temple will conveniently sell them to you right there on the spot for a surcharge, presumably. And this type of religious profiteering makes Jesus angry. So he yells and he flips some tables and he generally freaks everyone out. Now, was this a violent outburst that Jesus struggled to control and keep in? Or was it a carefully executed blow-up fueled by his righteous rage? Honestly, I have no idea. What I do know is that his anger was a beautiful act of protest against an unjust system. But anger isn't just beautiful, it's also dangerous. After all, they ended up killing him for it. Amen.